Joyful just made pumpkin pie and apple pie. Grace just made Christmas cake. Actually, I think we used to call it cranberry cake, but now we're calling it Christmas cake. I don't know, I guess that's just the evolution of the name of a recipe. And now I'm cleaning up and we are going into round 2. I have to make a squash casserole, a broccoli salad, and then maybe pumpkin rolls. Most of you guys have probably already done your Thanksgiving prep days ago, but I've been too busy. And I actually decided, I made the executive decision to wait till the babies went to bed before cooking because I was too tired today to include the twins. So we just reset the kitchen, washed a bunch of dishes, and it's time to make the savory dishes. What we're gonna make is my grandmother's squash casserole. Now, all of these items are from a can or store-bought or whatever. And I am totally okay with that because I have tried to make this from scratch, a healthier version, all the things, and it doesn't taste like my grandmother's, so I don't like it. So we are making it the way my grandma makes it. And it is her famous squash casserole. Everybody loves it. I've been eating this my entire life, and so it's just one of those nostalgic dishes that brings me back to Thanksgiving. And since I'm not spending Thanksgiving with my family this year, I just had to make it because it is just not Thanksgiving to me unless there's this, specifically this squash casserole. I actually don't have enough squash. I don't know why. I thought I bought 5 cans, but I can only find 3. I know, right? Squash from a can, so weird. But we're gonna do it. I'm just gonna drain the squash. And you know, I should ask my Memama, I call her Memama sometime, where she got this recipe. Because this just reminds me of like, I don't know when it started, but the era when it was literally everything from can, everything processed, and you just dumped it all in and cooked it, because that's what this recipe is. So I would love to know from her, you know, she probably got out of the newspaper or something like that. But I've never asked her where this recipe came from. But I've been eating it literally every Thanksgiving for pretty much my entire life. You just throw the squash in there. Throw the canned cream of mushroom soup in there. Yes, you can make this homemade. No, I'm not going to because it doesn't taste the same. You even have to like buy the not organic cream of mushroom soup because I've tried that too. We're gonna do a cup of sour cream. My favorite thing about Thanksgiving is probably the food. I think also it's just the lowered expectations and like it's just less frantic feeling than Christmas. You know, they're so close together that my family actually has a lot of parties over the next month. They have Thanksgiving, they have a big family Christmas party, a small family Christmas party. But Thanksgiving is like really chill because you're just, all we're doing is getting together to eat. So it's just a very like calm atmosphere. The food is super good, and it's also just like such a time of nostalgia for me because it's the same foods every single year. And you're just gonna take your 4 beaten eggs and just dump it. This is a dump casserole. Isn't that the nice thing about casseroles? It's supposed to be a cup, so I'm just gonna add a bunch. Because you can't go wrong with sharp cheddar in your casserole. That's definitely more than a cup, but that's okay. Okay, you're gonna mix this together by hand. You're gonna chop up some of that squash as you go into smaller pieces. It's not gonna look very good at all. Don't let your kids watch you doing this part, or they won't try it. You could break up the squash beforehand. That would probably be easier. Before we finish that, we are going to get this pie out of the oven. I'm gonna take a look at it first. Don't fall. I'm a little concerned that it's not bubbling over, but I think it'll still be really good. And then I'm gonna move my cake up to the top rack here. There we go. That's got another 20 minutes. I have the Christmas cranberry cake in the oven, 2 of them, and that has another 20 minutes. And these can cool. You're just gonna dump that right into your pan. It's a 9 by 13. Alright, we're just gonna melt some butter. This is for the topping of this casserole. Casseroles pretty much always gotta have a topping. While the butter is melting, I'm just gonna wash my broccoli really quick. This is another thing that I'm used to having at Thanksgiving. My aunt, this is her broccoli salad. It is the best I've ever had. And I am making it because once again, I won't be at my family's. So I am recreating my favorites from my family Thanksgiving. She cannot be in here. Hey, Joy, will you take Jade upstairs, please? She can't be in here while I'm cooking, honey. JD? Hey, Joy, take JD upstairs. Can you both? So to make the topping, you just melt a stick of butter. You get 2 sleeves of Ritz Crackers, or I got like the store brand. That part doesn't matter. And this will work better in a gallon bag, but I don't have one. You're just gonna bust these up. Not too small, you want a little chunk left to them. You don't want them like powder. And you just add that right to that butter. Satisfying. Okay, and then you're just gonna spread that out over your squash casserole. Now it's way more edible looking, and a child will eat that. But we are not going to actually cook this tonight. We are going to cover it. We're going to put down a layer of parchment and then a layer of aluminum foil. You don't have to wrap it like you would as if you were going to freeze it, because you're just going to stick it in the fridge. And then tomorrow, just before it's time to eat, you're going to want to cook this for about 30 minutes at 350. And that way it's hot, fresh, and bubbly. You could always cook it beforehand and then just warm it up. That is fine too, but I think that this is just as good of a way if you have room in your oven, which we should. Now, if you did not grow up with your Memama making you that dish, you could definitely make that from scratch, and you'd probably really like it. But if you did grow up with your Memama making that, then I would stick to the recipe, because it is not going to taste the same as your Memama's if you try to make it from scratch. It is time to cook the bacon, because that is one of the key ingredients in the broccoli salad, and it's one of the things that makes it so delicious. The amount of bacon totally depends on you. I'm cooking 1.5 pounds, like 24 ounces. You can do less, you can do more. It's really up to you. One of the keys to this salad is that you break the broccoli into tiny bite-sized pieces. Big old pieces like this salad will be awful to eat, because it's too much for your mouth. The perfection of this salad is a little bit of broccoli, a little bit of bacon, and a little bit of the other ingredients. So that's the tedious part about making this, is breaking everything little. If you just twist it though, it's a lot easier. So you see you have all these little baby trees. If you twist and break off that stalk, then you can just pull them apart really easily. You kind of just like roll it through your fingers and it comes right apart. Voila. My Christmas cakes are ready, Christmas cranberry cakes. This is my favorite cake of all time, but we just make it at the holidays. One thing you can do ahead of time is cut the bacon into small pieces. It's a lot easier and faster to cook it up. But you can also cook it in whole pieces and then break it into little pieces later. You can also cook it in the oven, which pretty much keeps it hands-off for you. I don't really like oven-baked bacon, because the consistency to me is a little bit rubbery instead of like a little bit crispy. So I like to put mine in a pan, even though it is more work. This is always the part that I mess up, so this is always so hard. Just go slow and steady because it is hard to get it off. I did oil it and flour it, but this cake is just very sticky. It's just hard to get it off. Oh, beautiful. Now number 2. Perfect. I am not done with this cake yet. It has a sweet citrus glaze that I will put on it tomorrow when it's nice and cool before we eat it. It's too hot right now, and also I can't wrap it up and put it in the fridge if I put the glaze on right now. So we're gonna let these cool, and then I will wrap them up in saran wrap. You could probably leave them out on your counter for the night. I'm gonna stick mine in the fridge. If you try any of these recipes, I highly recommend trying this one. Obviously we have the classic pumpkin pie, the classic apple pie, but this is something completely different. The flavors are tangy and sweet, and then there's also almond extract in it, which maybe sounds strange, but if you leave it out, the cake is not the same because we've accidentally left it out before and it just wasn't that good without it. The almond extract makes the cake. Now it is a dense cake, there is no leavening in it. So it's a denser cake, kind of more like a coffee cake, but not nearly as sweet. This cake doesn't make you feel sick after you eat it. It's just a very light, kind of, can I say refreshing about a cake? But for a cake, I would say it is. And I think it's that citrusy, tangy flavor that makes it like that. This is a crowd favorite in our house though, and as soon as the cranberries come out every year, I buy like 10 bags of cranberries to make sure I can make this all season long, not just for Thanksgiving. Okay, so for a bowl about this size, I used 5 head of broccoli. They're about medium heads. Now, if you're worried about being wasteful, because you don't use much of the broccoli, you just use the very top, all you have to do is you can chop this up and then you can put it in a freezer bag and save it for broth, or you can save it for broccoli soup. If you didn't already cut your bacon up, once it's cooked, you're gonna cut it up or crumble it up if you like yours really crispy. I don't like it super crispy, so I will cut it up. You want it pretty small because you want, like a chunk that big, that's too big. You want nice small pieces, like about that. Next, you're gonna take a red onion. You really only need about half of it. You're gonna wanna dice it pretty small, not tiny. You're still a diced, not a minced, but smaller sized diced pieces. You can use a white or a yellow onion if you want to. I think the red onion has a better flavor for this salad, and it's also prettier. It just makes it more festive. All right, add this to your broccoli. Always use the back of your knife whenever you're sliding things across your cutting board because it dulls your knife to use the edge. But if you use the back of the knife, you're not dulling your knife as quickly. This salad actually takes pecans, but I forgot to buy them. You can get the candied pecans or just plain pecan pieces. You don't want whole pecans. You want them to be small, just like all the other bits and pieces of this salad. But I had almonds, so almonds work in this salad too. But pecans really are yummy, and they're such a seasonal thing this time of year that it's fun to add them. But we'll just substitute, no big deal. And then the last thing you're gonna add to the salad, we still have to make the dressing, are sweetened dried cranberries, or another way I've made this before, it's much more tedious, but it is so delicious, is adding fresh pomegranates. It's really good. If you have the time and the energy and you feel like doing that, go for it. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of salt. Obviously salt is to taste, so that is up to you. And then we're gonna make the dressing. Now bear with me here, I always eyeball it. I know it's a cup of mayo, and then I kind of eyeball the vinegar. You can eyeball the vinegar. Basically you're just eyeballing it until it makes like a dressing, a creamy dressing consistency, so not too thin. So I'm gonna guess that was half a cup. Okay, so you would add about 3 tablespoons of sugar. But you can see my sugar has the really large crystals, and so I actually don't want to put that in there because it's not going to really melt into the dressing very well. I made some powdered sugar a little while ago. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So I'm actually just going to sprinkle some of that on there. And I don't know what the equivalent is, so I'm going to be careful how much I add. You don't have to add the sugar if you don't want to. You could do honey if you want. Maple syrup if you want. Maple syrup would probably be really good, especially if there are pecans in there. You are just going to mix that together. You can use a whisk, a fork, a spoon, whatever. And now I have this like creamy consistency. All this dressing is, it's a classic coleslaw dressing. I learned it many years ago from Joy of Cooking. I might have the amounts different than what it is in Joy of Cooking, but that's basically what this is. Just pour that on there. It's really good to make this the day before the event or whatever that you're serving it at, because it tastes a lot better the second day. And then you're just gonna mix all that up, and then you're gonna taste it, make sure it has enough salt to your liking, make sure it has enough dressing to your liking. And then I will cover this and refrigerate it for sure, because it has meat, it has mayo in it, so it definitely needs to be refrigerated. If I do say so myself, I have the perfect ratio of broccoli, nuts, bacon, onions, and cranberries and dressing. This to me is perfect amounts of everything. All right, let's get this in the fridge. If you notice, I'm using stainless steel bowls with these pink silicone bottoms. I use those because they keep them from slipping on the counter, and they also come with lids, which makes it really easy to stick in the fridge. My cranberry cakes, they take like, it's like a sweet citric glaze, and you use powdered sugar in it. Now, you don't have to buy powdered sugar. Powdered sugar is super easy to make. You just pour some sugar, oops, I guess I could have just done straight in there, into a coffee grinder. I've used a blender. Blenders really don't get the consistency of powdered sugar, at least not my blender. So I use a coffee grinder. And it just takes a few seconds, and it is perfect powdered sugar consistency. And just check it and dump it in. Store-bought powdered sugar has a lot of cornstarch in it, and that's actually, they use that just to keep it from caking. I'm going to use this tomorrow. So I am actually not going to add any cornstarch to it. So that may actually be one reason why you want to make this yourself, is so that there's no additives. The other reason is maybe you just forgot to buy it at the store because it's not something you keep on hand, kind of like me. I don't keep it on hand, so I often forget to purchase it. Thankfully, it is super easy to make, especially if you have a coffee grinder. Now we are totally prepared for tomorrow. I ended up not making pumpkin rolls because I'm tired, and these aren't the only desserts coming, so I'm not worried about the amount of dessert. Cooking the day before feels really good, or even days before, because then on Thanksgiving Day or on Christmas Day or whatever day it is that you are having a celebration, you can be less stressed out and focused more on hanging out, hostessing, welcoming people, doing some last minute cleaning, whatever. So tomorrow, what I will do is I will make the whipped cream for the pumpkin pie. We will be warming up the apple pie. That's all we need to do to that. And then I will glaze these two cakes. These aren't quite cool enough to wrap yet, but when they are, I'll wrap them in saran wrap. And then tomorrow, I'll just unwrap them. We don't really need to warm it up. This cake doesn't need to be warm. It's actually really good when it's room temperature. My broccoli salad and my squash casserole are in the refrigerator. These can actually stay out. They'll be just fine overnight. You can refrigerate them if that makes you feel better. There you have it. We are prepped and ready, and have very little to do tomorrow before welcoming our guests.